Now it's time to welcome the edited edition 2019. Now here I have a question. The nice guy who finished first, who could be that nice guy on whom the book was written? Any guesses? That's right, Rahul Dravid. Then it was around the world in 70 and a half.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The chief guest for this evening, Mr. Dilip Venkasarkar, and friend and colleague Ajinkya Naik, and the author of the 10th book, Prabhudesai. It's a great pleasure for me to stand here before you at the book release of his 10th book. I have been associated with Devendra for a number of years. He was a part of BCCI, and I must admit, lot of new concepts that were done by BCCI, so far as the media is concerned, were all creations of his at that time, and for which I am ever grateful, because we could change the way BCCI is looked at. There was a time when BCCI and media never, I think, saw to each other in the way it should be. But he made an attempt when he was there in the BCCI. Writing a book is a really challenging thing. I had a part in writing books when I was a chemistry teacher, but that was different because there used to be 4 or 5 authors. Each one contributed to the chapters, 2 or 3 chapters of that textbook. But writing a book for the one that I wrote, I got a call from Rupa Publications during the COVID time. And he told me that, sir, why don't you write a book? I was really not very keen on what was being suggested, because I didn't know where to start. But how do we really get into writing a book or authoring a book which has to be read by people, and it has to be of interest to the cricket loving people. And somehow I agreed to, because the calls went on, and one day Devendra called me, because our author is the same. And he said, sir, let us do it, because you can start writing and just I'll help you out. And that's when it all started. But then I realized there is so much of history to Indian cricket. And I had been in MCA for a number of years. And Mumbai Cricket Association has its own history with respect to the way it has come up, its cricketers, the grounds, the number of times it wins Ranji Trophy. And the BCCI has a huge history for nearly 100 years, where you can really, not much of it has been dissipated to the general public. People are not really aware of the history of these institutions, which matter a lot. For me, I got an opportunity to go through the history of BCCI because I used to appear in the court cases of BCCI. And my job was to provide information to our lawyers based on the facts of the case, which was the Lodha case, which was popular and everybody knows about it. And then I realized that there are so many things which are there, which people really would link up with. For example, I read for the first time that in the AGM of the BCCI, there used to be a time where the captain of the Indian team used to be voted in the AGM, which was a very funny situation. The selection committee was elected later, but the captain was elected by the AGM. And then I started thinking how influential that captain would be, because he had the backing of the AGM, and the selection committee has to work with the person who was elected by the AGM. Interesting. And later they realized at some point of time and passed a resolution that no state should be represented by the current players, whether first class or international. They should not represent them in the BCCI meetings. And things changed after that. Then the selection committee probably became more powerful and they could take decisions of the time. There was a time also a story which is related to Ranji Trophy, which Devan has mentioned in his book, that when Ranji Trophy was started in 1934, the first few years of Ranji Trophy were really challenging. There were less crowds for Ranji Trophy than the Pentangulars. And then a story floated that somebody influenced Mahatma Gandhi to make a statement that he was unhappy with the communal tournaments or the communal color of the Pentangular tournaments, and Pentangular stopped and Ranji Trophy could take off. I don't know how far it is true, but then that's one story which you come across. The Indian cricket history is a never-ending story, and looking at the present, you feel that it's only last 10 years that Indian cricket has made or achieved something. It's not so. If you look at the history of Indian cricket over a period of time, there have been immense achievements that the board has done or Indian cricket has done, and probably I think it came to light with us winning the 1983 World Cup, where common man started realizing the fact that Indian cricket is there to be followed, and hockey, which was a national game, then became secondary to cricket, and cricket flourished after that. There was a time when BCCI used to be under an impression that Doordarshan or Prasar Bharati, as it is called, was the sole authority to decide who should telecast the matches. And they used to telecast all the matches that were played in India. And the BCCI never knew this, that there is so much of money also into media. And the story is that when South Africa tour or the South African team, after they were given the membership, revived their membership in International Cricket Council, and the team was touring India for 3 ODIs. They wanted the matches to be relayed live in South Africa because it was a historical occasion. And they requested BCCI that they would like to have the feed live in the South African broadcast too. And they wanted to know how much would be the money that they would have to pay. So we didn't know anything because we were never paid by Doordarshan. And we thought that there's not much of money involved. And that was the time we changed Indian cricket so far as the media rights was concerned. South African broadcast offered $200,000 to telecast those matches live in South Africa. And that opened up the eyes of the Indian administrators. They challenged the Indian government. It's not easy in India to challenge the government. But they challenged the decision of Prasar Bharati at that time. And the Supreme Court passed an historical order that any cricket that is played in India is a part of BCCI or belongs to BCCI. And if Prasar Bharati wants to telecast any matches, they will have to bid for that like any other broadcaster. And that, friends, changed the whole scene of what we see today. We look at the amount of money or media rights can get, is all dependent on that one decision of the Supreme Court. Mumbai cricket has its own history. If one really looks at, many of us have seen yesteryear's cricketers, the history of Mumbai cricket, winning the Ranji Trophy for the most number of times in India, and the number of international cricketers that have been produced. Somewhere down the line, it has a link also that the quadrangulars and pentangulars being played in Mumbai was also the basis for the popularity of the game and the following it had in the city of Mumbai. So if you encompass yourself into the history, it's huge, and each of this unit has its own history which we can enjoy. Devendra has put it nicely in his book, Running Between Wickets. He has tried to make it interesting. A number of points which I said also has been reflected into this book. And I've gone through this book, Devendra. You've done a great effort. And I'm sure that just like your other books, this also will be popular. He is an author with some credit, I must say, because his book on Rahul Dravid had to go for a second edition. That speaks volumes for the way you write and the following that you have among the readers. Congratulations and God bless you.
आज देवेंद्र यांच्या 10th बुकला उपस्थित रिस्पेक्टेड दिलीप सर, प्रोफेसर रत्नागिरी शेट्टी सर आणि सर्व तुम्ही उपस्थित मान्यवर. ऍक्च्युअली रनिंग बिटवीन द विकेट्स आणि देवेंद्र यांचं लाईफ खूप थोडं सिमिलर आहे, कारण त्यांच्या प्रोग्रेसिव्ह जी वाटचाल होती, ज्यांनी BCCI मध्ये पहिली रन काढली असेल, त्याच्या आधी खूप इन्स्टिट्यूट्स मध्ये पण त्यांनी एज्युकेशन इन्स्टिट्यूटमध्ये काम केलं. आझाद ओव्हल क्रॉस सारख्या ठिकाणी मुंबई क्रिकेटचा इतिहास ते क्रिकेट रसिकांपुढे, टुरिस्ट लोकांकडे ते घेऊन जात असत. पण त्याच्यातच MCAने त्यांची विकेट घेतली आणि शरद पवार क्रिकेट म्युझियमचे ते आज लिडरशिप रोलमध्ये हेड करतायत. आणि नुसतं हेड नाही तर सक्सेसफुली ते त्यांचा रोल हे करतायत. जर तुम्ही म्युझियमच्या जर ऍपवर जर झोमॅटोवर बघाल तर पुढचे 2 महिने, 3 महिने, आठवडा हे सोल्ड आउट असतं. जशी मॅचच्या तिकीटला एक आमच्याकडे रिक्वायरमेंट असते की स्लॉट मिळेल का, बसायला मिळेल का, तशी म्युझियमचे स्लॉट सुद्धा फुल आहेत. त्याचं पूर्ण क्रेडिट देवेंद्र आणि त्यांच्या टीमला जातं. माझी त्यांच्याशी ओळख कशी झाली थोडक्यात मला तुम्हाला सांगायचं आहे. एक दिवशी आम्ही MCAची जी क्रिकेट अकॅडमी आहे तिकडे आम्ही सगळे ऑफिस बेरर्स वगैरे, तेव्हा अभय सेक्रेटरी होते, तेव्हा आम्ही गप्पा मारत होतो. त्यातच अकॅडमीच्या बाहेरून एक लिजेंडरी क्रिकेटर पास होत होते आणि अंडर 14, अंडर 16च्या मुलांना आपापसात ती लोक गप्पा मारत होते. त्यांना मी विचारलं की हे कोण आहेत सर, सरांचं नाव घेत नाही पण हे सर कोण आहेत. तर त्या मुलांचं रिॲक्शन असं होतं की हे कॉमेंटेटर आहेत, कारण ते ज्या माणसांनी असा इतिहास रचला अशा प्लेअरला ते कॉमेंटेटर म्हणून ओळखत होते. लगेच आम्ही आमच्या ऑफिसमध्ये जाऊन चर्चा केली की कुठेतरी काहीतरी मिसिंग आहे, कुठेतरी गॅप आहे, कुठेतरी आपला इतिहास हा मुलांकडे घेऊन जायला पाहिजे. जी रिच लिगसी आपण नुसतं म्हणतो पण ती कुठेतरी मुलांपर्यंत पोहोचवली पाहिजे. तर तेव्हाच आमचं देवेंद्रजींशी बोलणं झालं की तुम्ही असं एक वर्कशॉप कराल का, अंडर 14, अंडर 16चे जे फिटनेस कॅम्पला जे प्रॉबेबल सिलेक्ट होतात. तर त्यांची जी कल्पना होती की ड्रेसिंग रूम मध्ये वानखेडेच्या आपण मुलांना मुंबई क्रिकेटचा इतिहास आपण सांगा, लेजेंड्स कोण होते, रेकॉर्ड्स काय झाले वानखेडे स्टेडियमवर, असे वेगळ्या वेगळ्या विषयावर त्यांना टच बेस करू. आणि त्यावर्षी सक्सेसफुली तो उपक्रम रन झाला आणि आपण अराउंड 5 ट्रॉफीज BCCIच्या मुंबई क्रिकेट असोसिएशनने जिंकल्या. त्याच्यातच येणाऱ्या 6 महिन्यामध्ये वानखेडे स्टेडियमचं 50 वर्ष पूर्ण होत होतं आणि कुठेतरी इतिहास कनेक्ट केला पाहिजे, ब्रिज क्रिएट केला पाहिजे. जो प्रोफेसर सरांकडे जे नॉलेज असेल किंवा इकडे CS नाईक सर बसले, दिलीप सर क्रिकेटिंग वाईज सांगू शकतील, इकडे मकरंद वांगणकर सुद्धा आहेत, क्लेटन आहेत, हे कुठेतरी क्रिकेटचा इतिहास आम्हाला यंगस्टर्सना सांगू शकतात. पण तो लोकांपुढे कसा घेऊन जायला पाहिजे, मेंबर्सना कसं कळवलं पाहिजे, त्याच्यासाठी आम्ही एक कॉफी टेबल बुक काढलं वानखेडे स्टेडियमचं. त्याच्या नेतृत्व सुद्धा देवेंद्र आणि दासवण त्यांनी दोघांनी केलं. आणि वन ऑफ द काइंड कॉफी टेबल बुक मुंबई क्रिकेट असोसिएशनच्या आज म्हणजे रेकॉर्ड मध्ये आहे, त्याचं क्रेडिट सुद्धा देवेंद्रला जातं. असे अनेक त्यांनी रोल्स केले जिकडे मुंबई क्रिकेटला हेल्प होईल, कुठेतरी तो इतिहास घेऊन जात आहे. आता म्युझियम करायची वेळ आली. खूप वर्ष मी अपेक्स काउन्सिल मेंबर म्हणून काम करत असताना, सेक्रेटरी म्हणून काम करत असताना की म्युझियम झालं पाहिजे, म्युझियम इकडे जागा आहे, म्हणजे आम्ही जाता येता फक्त जागा बघायचो. म्हणजे कधी वाटायचं की तो म्युझियमचं बँक्वेट नको व्हायला किंवा रेस्टॉरंट नको व्हायला. मग आम्ही नाईक सरांशी पण बोललो की आपण हे काहीतरी केलं पाहिजे. माननीय पवार साहेबांशी पण चर्चा केली आणि मग ठरवलं की म्युझियम करायचं. आता म्युझियम करायचं तर इतिहास कोणाला माहिती, प्लस ते थोडं मॉडर्नाइज वे लोकांपर्यंत कसं घेऊन जाता येईल. तर त्याच्यासाठी परत माझ्या डोक्यात एकच नाव आलं, देवेंद्र प्रभुदेसाई. शेवटी कुठेतरी सगळं कंपाईल केलं पाहिजे आणि नवीन पिढीकडे ते घेऊन जायला पाहिजे. आणि ती जी नॅक आहे, म्हणजे 10वं पुस्तक त्यांनी आज काढलंय, त्याचा अर्थ ती त्यांच्याकडे नॅक आहे की दररोज 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 नवीन नवीन काय काय आपण लोकांपुढे घेऊन जाऊ शकतो. आणि माझ्या मते त्यांनी यशस्वी रीतीने म्युझियम ते हँडल केलं, प्लस त्याला एक जोड म्हणून स्टेडियम टूर सुद्धा सुरू केली. आणि ती खरं सगळ्यात मोठं आता अट्रॅक्शन झालं की वानखेडे स्टेडियमच्या ड्रेसिंग रूम मध्ये जायचंय, मीडिया बॉक्स मध्ये जायचंय, म्हणजे मीडियाच्या लोकांपेक्षा जास्त देवेंद्र आज जातो तिकडे. तर असे वेगळे वेगळे त्यांनी इनिशिएटिव्ह घेतले आणि त्याचं मी अभिनंदन करीन त्यांच्या पूर्ण फॅमिलीचं. कारण शेवटी सगळं गोष्टी येतात पण फॅमिली शेवटी बॅक नाही करणार. कारण हिस्ट्रीचे स्टुडंट तर सगळे लेफ्ट आउट असतात, प्रोफेसर सांगू शकतील. कारण पहिलं मुलांना डॉक्टर बनायचंय, इंजिनियर बनायचंय, असे जिकडे फायनान्शियली फिजिबल गोष्टी असतात ते सगळ्यांचं मत असतं, आर्किटेक्चर. पण इतिहासासाठी कोण बॅक करत नाही, तर त्यांच्या फॅमिलीने त्यांना बॅक केलं म्हणून आज मुंबई क्रिकेटचा इतिहास जातो. मी हिस्ट्री पॉलिटिक्सचा स्टुडंट आहे पण मला तेवढा काही इतिहास माहित नाहीये. पण सगळे जे स्टॉलवर्ड्स आहेत समोर बसलेले आणि स्टेजवर आहेत त्यांच्याकडनं आम्ही मुंबई क्रिकेटचा इतिहास नेहमीच ऐकत असतो. शेवटी आज थर्ड जनरेशन आपण एका या म्हणजे फोर्थ जनरेशन म्हणजे देवेंद्र यांचा मुलगा सुद्धा इकडे उपस्थित, म्हणजे 70+ लोक आहेत, मिड एज आहेत, माझ्यासारखे थोडे यंगस्टर्स आहेत आणि त्यांचा मुलगा, म्हणजे 4 जनरेशनना इतिहास जर कोण दाखवत असेल तर देवेंद्र प्रभुदेसाई दाखवत आहेत. तुमचं अभिनंदन मी खरोखर 4, 5, 6 वेळा करेन. आज कार्यक्रमाला येताना आणि खूप दिवसापासून माझ्या डोक्यात आहे की कुठेतरी मुंबई क्रिकेट असोसिएशनचं एक रिसर्च सेंटर असलं पाहिजे. एक थिंक टँक म्हणून आपण नुसतं ऐकतो. कुठलाही बिझनेस करताना किंवा कुठलंही गव्हर्नमेंट जेव्हा रन होतं तेव्हा मागे एक थिंक टँक काम करतं. जर MCA ने येणाऱ्या काळात जर थिंक टँक केलं तर नक्कीच देवेंद्र प्रभुदेसाई हे त्याचं नेतृत्व करतील किंवा त्याचा पार्ट असतील. एवढंच बोलून मी माझे 2 शब्द सांगतो. जय हिंद, जय महाराष्ट्र.
Feeling of running between the wickets, the story of the Indian men cricket team by Devendra Prabhudesai. Come on, like little louder. This is the moment where the 10th book, the celebration starts. All the effort, all the hard work will be applauded, and it will be a must read very soon for every one of us.
A privilege to be here for the launch of running between the wickets by Devendra Prabhudesai. I believe this is his 10th book. Actually, I'm struggling to get off the mark still, but the heartiest congratulations to Devendra. I think he started his career with PMG and later on with BCCI. I used to meet him very often in BCCI sometimes, and he was the one who started a in-house magazine in BCCI, and it did so well. I don't know why it stopped. Similarly, when I was the vice president of Mumbai Cricket Association, I had suggested to start a similar magazine, but unfortunately, it didn't see the light of the day. But nonetheless, his contribution is huge. He is always used to be the MC at the BCCI functions, with the official functions, unofficial functions. He was the man in charge. And now, of course, he is in charge of the museum at the Mumbai Cricket Association, which I think is world-class museum. And I must say, I think Naik and all the Apex Council members, CS Naik, everybody is here today. They have done a wonderful job because it's a rich history what we have. I was the one who inaugurated Advan Museum before that, Madhya Pradesh Cricket Association. That is also absolutely international standard. It is beautiful. And I was very happy to be there also for MCA's museum. And Devendra is the one who is in charge and takes the lead. And as I think he just said that it's booked for the next 3 months. So it is more popular than the Lord's Cricket Ground, to be honest with you. Well done, Devendra, for that. And let's see, I read the book and I played at least 60 to 70% of the matches which he has mentioned. But today actually I mentioned about the great administrators I think the BCCI had, because we are very fine administrators of MCA. Professor Shakti is here. His contribution to MCA is huge because I think the secretary, he's been the treasurer, he's been the vice president, and he's always we used to look forward to and we used to look up to. And whenever we had any issues about administration, we used to go to Professor. And Professor was always there and very willing to help the youngsters, help our cricketers to get into administration. And of course, I think for BCCI, he's done a great job as an administrator over the years. And I think as a panel manager of Pakistan, Indian team for the Pakistan. And then the way he single-handedly organized the World Cup in 2011 was exemplary indeed. Ajinkya is doing a great job. He's the future of Mumbai cricket. He's a tremendous potential as administrator, and he's very innovative, as the MC said. And I hope he continues for many years to come, because his presence is very important to see that MCA does well in domestic matches in Mumbai, in India. I think Ajinkya should be in forefront, because his contribution would definitely come in a big way. About the administrators, I had experience, or I had the privilege to work with one, of course, I think Sharad Pawarji, and Dalmiaji. When I retired in 1992, I think before that, I think during my career, Jagmohan Dalmia has been the president, has been the secretary, has been the treasurer of the BCCI, and and when he became president of BCCI, he was absolutely hands-on. He would attend each and every meeting of BCCI. I was a part of the technical committee that time, and he would come with all the minutes underlined. Whenever I think he had to say something or improvise that, he would come so well prepared, and he would attend each and every meeting of BCCI, and his contribution was huge. And when I retired in 1992, he asked me to become chairman selection committee. I said, Jaguda, I can't become the only reason is that you have to change the constitution and you have to change that five senators from 5 zones. I don't approve of that. You have to change that. He said, Dilip, it's not possible, because I was a huge country and every zone should be represented. So I said, sir, then I'm not interested. Then he met Brajesh Patel as chairman selection committee. After 4 days, again he called me. Again I said the same thing. Again he said the same thing to me. And then Kirmani, I was appointed as chairman. And then he made me the chairman of talent spotters, which was brainchild of Makaran, who is sitting here, Rajesh Patel. And since Jaguda, he was fondly called, he would attend all the meetings. It was very easy to take decisions and implement those decisions because he was always there. I mean, there was nothing like, कि एक महीने के बाद मैं आऊँगा बाद में देखते हैं वगैरह ऐसे नहीं. On the spot he was there. So that was the best stint I had with BCCI because I could watch a lot of matches for under 14, 16, 19. And then he made me in charge of under 19 also when we picked the team for 2 World Cups, which did extremely well. But as I said, he was a hands-on and he was an outstanding man as well as administrator. Because CAB, I think, was the only association who would invite former captains of Indian team for all the international matches. And they would, I think everybody used to be there and they enjoyed hospitality. He was a very, very hospitable person and he had great respect for all former cricketers, former captains, and as I said, then he became ICC chairman. He did a great job. They started they started Champions Trophy, and of course, and Sharad Pawarji, when I was the vice president, I think he was the president for many years. His contribution was huge as well because MCA he did remarkably well his leadership because he was a fantastic administrator and the way he built the BKC club in SRT club in Kandivali and many other things as well. Sharad was again very hands-on, though he was extremely busy, but he would come for all the meetings. I still remember he had come for a meeting and everybody was talking about the overage players. That some of the schools have overage players and it was going on for 1 hour and he was sitting listening to them. So I was wondering myself, that's such a great man and he was sitting here and listening for an hour or so about an overage issue. And then he said to me, जे म्हणतायत की ओव्हरेज प्लेस पण आमचा वाढदिवस म्हणजे कधी आम्ही आमची बर्थडे केली की जेव्हा आम्ही शाळेमध्ये ॲडमिशन घेतली तेव्हा पण आता हे म्हणतायत तर ठीक आहे आता यू टू सॉर्ट आउट दॅट इश्यू बट दॅट वॉज हिम अँड बिकॉज ऑफ हिम आय थिंक we could rebuild the Wankhede Stadium in 9 months and then of course he started CIC. I think it's a very unique thing, I would say, at giving the pass to cricketers to appoint and select support staff and all those guys, and the Sharad Pawarji was there for all the matches. And he was extremely busy, but he was at all the matches. And he was president of BCCI and chairman of ICC. He also reached the highest post because he deserved it. He was so competent. I still remember that in 2007 he sent me to Lord's Cricket Ground to watch the Indian ladies playing against English ladies, and I went to watch that match. And England had scored 350 runs. And Indians were out for I think 150. And he asked me how was the match. I said, our girls have a long way to go. Unless and BCCI supports them, then only is possible. But he took it upon himself that he backed girls cricket, women's cricket to the hilt. I think because of him, that what we see now the Indian women's team is a world-class team because he could manage the tournaments, he could manage tours for them, he got infrastructure for them, and most importantly, he was so supportive of women's cricket. I think because of him, we could win the World Cup as well. And then of course IPL he started. I think he was the one. I think was instrumental in starting IPL. I mean, he was visionary. I mean, he's still there, and his contribution still today is huge. He's always there to help Mumbai cricket, and you know, all the coaches, all the selectors, all the players. His contribution is huge. And Devendra, thank you very much for inviting me for this. I think everybody should read that book. I think Vilas Godbole wrote one book. You know. And Makaram Ayangar also wrote one book. I think it should be read by everybody, like all these books, because you could know the history of Mumbai cricket and the history of Indian cricket. Thank you once again.
Now I'll continue the story. But in 1970, at a crucial meeting of the BCCI in India, Maharashtra pushed for a game-changing idea. Why not allow the top 2 teams from each zone to qualify for the knockouts?
Thank you, Dipesh, for the kind words. Good evening, everybody. Venksankar sir, Professor Shetty sir, Ajinkya Naik sir, members of the cricketing fraternity, senior office bearers of the MCA, members of the MCA Apex Council, members of the media and friends. Thank you very much, all of you, for being here today and making it one of the most memorable days of my life. 40 years ago, in the mid-1980s, we lived at Evrard Nagar on the Eastern Express Highway. Now, Evrard Nagar, as the name suggests, was a housing society dominated by the Catholic community. I remember an evening where about 8 or 9 of us were playing cricket. And it struck me that half the kids were Hindu and half were Christians. So I came up with a smart idea. I thought I was being very smart. I said, let's do something different today. Let's play Hindus versus Christians. And everybody just loved that idea, and we had an absolute blast that evening playing matches between Hindus and Christians. The next morning, the next evening, when all of us gathered, the unanimous feedback was that our respective mothers had been absolutely furious. My mother is here. She was also not very happy with what we had done. And so this idea of playing matches between Hindus and Christians was immediately, put aside. Now, unfortunately, at that stage, I was about 8-9 years old, and my knowledge of cricket history was rather limited. I later discovered that we Evrard Nagar boys had in fact revived one of the most glorious traditions of Indian and Mumbai cricket, which is the quadrangulars and pentangulars, communal cricket. Hindus, Muslims, Parsis, and the rest. I wish I had known it back then, so I would have told not only my mother about it, but also the other mothers, and I would have told them that we were in August company. The annual quadrangulars and pentangulars that Professor Shetty sir also touched upon in his address is, of course, the starting point for running between the wickets, the story of the Indian men's cricket team. All my books have been published by Rupa, one of the biggest publishing houses in the world, and I will always be grateful to Shri R.K. Mehra, the head of Rupa Publications, for giving me this opportunity to become an author 21 years ago. He couldn't make it because there's a function with the Prime Minister in Delhi this evening. When the Rupa team and I discussed possible subjects of the next book a few years ago, I suggested that we do a book on the history of Indian cricket without it looking like a history. We live in a day and age where attention spans have become extremely poor, deficient, and the word history, in fact, tends to scare people these days. The idea was to write a book that would delight not only the connoisseurs of the game, but also the so-called real generation, the IPL generation. A crisp and engaging book that would tell the story of the evolution of the Indian men's test team and also spotlight all the individuals who had shaped and reshaped Indian cricket as cricketers, administrators, and entrepreneurs. Yes, the book has turned out to be rather crisp, but whether it is engaging enough or not is something that only the readers can answer. It covers the period from 1932 to 2025. Running between the wickets is as much about the great wins, the forgettable defeats, as it is about significant events that occurred off the field, like the birth of India's first sports management and marketing company, and the story that Professor Shetty sir touched upon, how the BCCI discovered that it was sitting on a gold mine when the South Africans expressed their desire to buy the TV rights in 1991. What I learned while working on this book was that the more the things change, the more they remain the same. The wheel has, in a way, come full circle. When we played our inaugural test in 1932, our strengths were fast bowling and attacking batting. Our batters of the time were not known to be patient, and they were more comfortable against pace bowling than spin bowling. Strangely, we can say the same thing as far as 2026 is concerned, at least as far as when we come to test cricket. I also discovered during my research that history has often repeated itself in Indian cricket. Now, there have been some incredible coincidences. Take the tour of England in 1936, for instance. Lala Amarnath, our top all-rounder, was banished home on disciplinary grounds before the test series began. Two world-class players, Vijay Merchant and Syed Mushtaq Ali, made their mark in the test series that followed. Now, fast forward 60 years later, 1996, and this time we were touring England again, and Navjot Singh Sidhu, the senior most member of the team, returned home in a huff before the test series began. And when the test series was played, two young players made their mark in test cricket, and both went on to, in fact, captain India, Saurav Ganguly and Rahul Dravid. Amazing coincidences. There have been many instances in Indian cricket where the happenings have also been dramatic, or should I say melodramatic, almost like a Bollywood blockbuster. In April 2010, the national selectors met at the Cricket Centre, the BCCI headquarters, to pick the Indian team for the T20 World Cup, which was to be played in the Caribbean. I was then the media and corporate affairs manager of the BCCI, working under Professor Shetty. After the team was announced, everybody, the selectors, administrators and others, went for lunch. And it was while having lunch that one of the selectors began a conversation with a board official. The selector said, "We have picked Rohit Sharma in the team, but I would like to tell you that Rohit was the last player to be selected. We all know that he is talented, but we cannot keep picking a player only because he is talented. It is high time he starts performing. Please have a word with him if possible." So this was the time when Rohit was doing very well for Deccan Chargers in the IPL, but for India, his performances were a little inconsistent. He did very well in that World Cup against Australia, scoring 79, but he continued to be inconsistent and was eventually left out of the Indian team that played the 50-over World Cup in 2011, which of course we won. And Rohit later said that his omission from that World Cup team was a turning point for him. Now here is something that will do a Bollywood screenwriter proud. The last player to be picked in the Indian team for a T20 World Cup, played in the West Indies, captained India to victory in the next T20 World Cup that was played in the West Indies. Now that is quite phenomenal when you think about it. 14 years apart, literally, from nowhere to the apex of Indian cricket. Youngsters who have grown up in the era of Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Shami and Mohammad Siraj will probably be surprised to know that there was a time when 4 fast bowlers from the West Indies were invited to India to play domestic cricket in the hope that they will encourage Indians to become fast bowlers. The book features stories like these. Running between the wickets is also dedicated to 3 individuals who are unfortunately no longer with us. The first is Mr. Sumed Shah, who pioneered sports management in India and set up Professional Management Group, India's first sports management and marketing company with Mr. Gavaskar. There were no sports management institutes in the early 2000s, And for me and many others, PMG was our Sports Management Institute. We learned on the job, we made mistakes, picked ourselves up and moved on. The good thing was that we never repeated a mistake, we made new ones. But Mr. Shah gave us a platform from which to fly, explore and innovate. He will always be missed. And I'm very happy to have Atul sir and ma'am here today. Thank you very much for being there. The second individual to whom this book is dedicated is Neela Satyanarayan. She ended a glorious career in the Indian Administrative Service as the Election Commissioner Maharashtra in the early 2010s. That apart, she was a poet, a composer, an author, and an incredible mother-in-law. I had never seen what a genius was like from close quarters until I got to observe her. And I'm proud that this entire book was written on my laptop, but on her writing desk. The book is also dedicated to Sandeep Gandhi, my schoolmate, a chartered accountant by profession and one of the finest human beings I have ever known. He was a big cricket and film buff and a big supporter of mine. Our entire batch, and there are some representatives of our school batch here, we will miss him forever. And thanks Alpa and Dhyani for being there. It was an honor to work under Professor Shetty at the BCCI and in later years assist him on his book. With him, what you saw was always what you got. The respect he commands from the cricketing fraternity has no parallels. What all those of us who worked under him learned from him is hard to describe in words. He's someone who is as committed to the present and the future of the sport as he is to its traditions. 22nd March, that is the day after tomorrow, marks the silver jubilee of India's greatest series win at home against Australia in 2001. And June 2026 will mark the 40th anniversary of our series win in England, which was fashioned by Dilip Vengsarkar sir. Had Professor Shetty still been with the BCCI, the board would have surely scheduled a celebration of the silver jubilee of 2001. At least I haven't come across any such announcement so far. And the board would have planned a celebration of the 40th anniversary of India's series win in England and Vengsarkar sir's third Test 100 at Lord's. Shri Ajinkya Naik sir, the MCA president, belongs to an elite club of cricket administrators. In my 26 years in the cricket sector, I have met, interacted and worked with many administrators. Many of them would talk about things that had to be done, needed to be done, should be done. Ajinkya Naik sir is someone who does those things or gets them done. That makes him special. Of all the remarkable things initiated by him and the senior office bearers of the MCA, my favorite is the annual Crick Kit Fair. For young cricketers, acquiring good equipment is always a challenge. And now imagine a situation where the top equipment manufacturers from across the country are literally queuing up outside your doorstep, offering handsome discounts on quality equipment. Unbelievable. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this initiative. I am also privileged to be part of another path-breaking venture initiated by Ajinkya Naik sir, the MCA Sharad Pawar Cricket Museum. It was an honor to be assigned the job of curator, and all I can say is thank you once again, sir, for giving me this responsibility. The museum team, some members are here. They came late after locking the museum for the day after the last tour. The museum team will do its best to live up to your and the MCA's expectations. And I'm proud to inform everybody that India's first museum and stadium tour, which was started at the Wankhede Stadium 5 months ago, has been a massive success. Thank you, sir, for your support. And there's also Abhay Hadap sir, Dr. Umesh Thanvilkar sir, Nilesh Bhosle sir, Sayes Naik sir, Bharat sir, Vinod Yadav sir, Sandeep sir, thank you very much for coming. The chief guest for today is a legend and a childhood hero. Dilip Vengsarkar sir's contribution to the sport as player, coach, mentor and administrator has been phenomenal. There was no better sight in the 1980s than watching Dilip Vengsarkar sir in full flow. I have vivid memories of his centuries against the West Indies in 87-88, which was also his first series as captain of India. Vengsarkar sir was always at his best in conditions that favored the bowlers. Now this might surprise those, if there is anybody here below 40 years of age, this may come as a surprise to you. But when the Indian team toured England in 1986, 40 years ago, Doordarshan showed us the highlights of the test matches 1 day late. That is how we watched footage of Vengsarkar sir's centuries at Lords and Leeds 24 hours late. The Lords 100 was special and the Leeds 100 extraordinary. He scored 61 and 102 in a test in which no other batter crossed 40. And forgive me sir, I just have to talk about this, but who can forget his unbeaten century in the Ranji Trophy final against Haryana? Not just he, but all the Mumbai fans wept that evening after we lost that match by just 2 runs. As the head of the BCCI's Talent Research Development Wing conceived by Makarand Venkatkar sir, who is also with us, Vengsarkar sir fast-tracked an entire generation of cricketers into the Indian team. And 3 of the greatest captains of all time, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, have a lot to thank Vengsarkar sir for. It was an absolute honor to be the master of ceremonies when he received the BCCI's Colonel C.K. Naidu Lifetime Achievement Award in 2014. I would also like to thank some people without whose support this book would not have shaped the way it did. First and foremost, the Mumbai Cricket Association for everything. Aarti Mantri ma'am for lending me images from Madhav Mantri sir's collection. Are you there, ma'am? Thank you. Shri Rajendra Bhatt. Sir, are you there? Okay, he isn't there. Shri Rajendra Bhatt for giving me access to the collection of his father, Shri Gopal Bhatt, who captured generations of Indian cricketers for posterity. Shri Vaman Apte sir for giving me some priceless images from the collection of his father, Shri Madhav Apte. And Rohit Pandit, the CEO of the Madhya Pradesh Cricket Association, for giving me some precious images of Colonel C.K. Naidu. Clayton Murzello, Group Sports Editor Midday, he is to cricket literature what Mangesh Desai, the legendary sound engineer, was to Indian cinema in the 60s, 70s and 80s. I'll explain. If you see the best films from that era, like those made by Yash Chopra and V. Shantaram in Mumbai or Satyajit Ray in Kolkata, you will see one common name in the credits. That is Mangesh Desai. The top filmmakers in this country would wait for months to get Mangesh Desai's dates. They only wanted to work with him. Similarly, if you check the acknowledgement section of 90% of all the cricket books that have come out in the new millennium, just not Indian books but overall cricket books all over the world, in 90% of those books in the acknowledgement section, you will find one name, and that is Clayton Murzello. Thank you Clayton for always being there and hope you continue to be there. Thanks also to the Radio Nasha team for its love and support and the opportunity they gave me in the form of Baat Kuch Saal Ki. And thanks to the Timeless Melodies group, my musical mates, including Satish Samant, a big name in cricketing circles, without whom this launch could not have been organized. My family has been with me in the best and worst of times. Sadly, both my kids, Abhimanyu and Ira, have still not shown any interest in my books. Hopefully this one will make them change their mind. And last but not the least, I am standing in front of all of you here today because of the backing and encouragement of Anu, my wife. Can you stand up, please? Please stand up. I had locked myself into a cocoon while writing this book, leaving her to fend for herself and the kids. All I can say is I'll try my best to compensate. I would like to conclude this address with an announcement. I've already started working on my next book, which is also for Rupa. This one will be a biography of one of the greatest cricketers of all time, the pride of Mumbai and India, whose birth anniversary we celebrated just 2 days ago, the late Shri Eknath Solkar. And I'm proud to have members of the Solkar family here. Brijesh, thanks for coming. So that's all, ladies and gentlemen. Running Between the Wickets is out there, and it is now up to you to read it, judge it, and draw your own conclusions. Thank you, Deepesh, for being a great host. Thank you very much. Thank you.